The Oversoul by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Let us read responsibly. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us. The sources of nature are in our own minds.
As there is no screen or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens, so there is no bar or wall in the soul where we, the effect, cease, and God, the cause, begins.
I am constrained every moment to acknowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call mine.
There is a deep power in which we exist, and whose beatitude is accessible to us.
Every moment when the individual feels invaded by it is memorable.
It comes to the lowly and simple. It comes to whosoever will put it off what is foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur.
The soul's health consists in the fullness of its reception.
Forever and ever, the influx of this better and more universal self is deep and unsearchable.
Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one.
When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love.
Pull it toward you.
A little further. I'm actually a little gladder than usual to be here today. My father always said I was lucky, but he had a real curious idea about what luck was. Once as I was leaving his gas station in Norfolk, Virginia to drive my 25 or 30-year-old Chevy 2 Nova back to Pittsburgh, one of his employees said to him, well, what's that boy going to do if he gets up there in the middle of West Virginia and it breaks down? And my dad says, oh, he'll just sort of sit there and wonder who's going to get him out of this fix. I'd rather have that boy's luck than the license to steal. You know, some people, luck is getting the winning lotto number, or luck is getting the good job, or finding the soulmate. Apparently my luck is different. It turns out apparently my luck is that when you're staying in a home that you're really familiar with and you've stayed there before and you know it really well, and you get up to go to the bathroom the second time that night and miss the bathroom door and step into the stairwell that's empty and go down 10 stairs, you know, wondering what's going to happen at the end, and end up on your shoulder and head against the wall. Luck is, I missed the stud. So there's all kinds of luck. So I'm alive, I'm not paralyzed, nothing is broken. I'm just amazed and glad to be here. So I had a lot of a very adventurous weekend, which I can do with that. So I'll talk about something a little better than that today. Spirituality. So what is it? Well, first, what's the spirit before we can talk about spirituality? It's that vital principle or animating force traditionally believed to be in human beings, or the part of human beings associated with the mind or feelings as distinguished from the physical body, or the essential nature of a person. But spirituality is not tangible or material, which may put scientific thinkers at a temporary disadvantage, because this is a non-material thing we're talking about. I will argue that spirituality is what we do with that spirit. Of course, it could be lots more than that. And it's a hard topic to discuss because this is basically a new word for us. I mean, I think if you went into a bookstore 30 years ago, and early in the Reagan administration, how many books on spirituality would you have found? You know, there would have been few and far between. Now they have whole shelves dedicated to books on spirituality. So essentially, it's a new concept or a reworked concept. You know, not to be confused with, say, spiritualism, which is a whole other ball of wax, communications with spirits of the dead. That's not what spirituality is. Those words get accidentally mixed up from time to time. So I would just as soon use the word soul as the word spirit, because I think it has a better sound to it. And it has a lot more baggage, but that's what we're doing here. We're dealing with baggage. I believe we are born with a soul, and it is restless. We have a congenital dis-ease because of the spirit inside of us that just doesn't leave us alone. That we aren't born at peace. I mean, we're born perfect, we're born sinless, we're born righteous, but not at peace. Plato wrote that we are fired into life with a madness that comes from the gods, and which would have us believe that we can have a great love, perpetuate our own seed, and contemplate the divine. He also wrote, we are on fire because our souls come from beyond, and that beyond is trying to draw us back to itself. When we use the word nostalgia these days, we usually think of, oh, I like, you know, old music or old cars or something like that. It weren't the good old days great? What the Latin actually means is pain for home. So what Plato would have argued, although in Greek, would be that that place we came from is always calling us back, and that makes us restless, and that makes us uncomfortable. More Western, and you won't hear me quote Augustine very often, but on the first page of his Confessions, he wrote, you have made us for yourself, Lord, and our hearts are restless until we rest in you. More contemporarily, Ron Rolheiser, a writer on spirituality, wrote, spirituality is about what we do with our unrest. That's our spirituality, what we do with that unrest. Now, spirituality is like faith. I've already preached on that before. It's universal. Once I preached in here about how everybody had faith in something, whatever that ultimate thing they go to. We all have a spirit or soul, and we all do something with it. Therefore, we all have spirituality, whether we recognize it or not. Now, spirituality is not fringy or New Age or paranormal or woo-woo. Some people would like to think it is because then they can dismiss it, but it's not. It's not, you know, like Casper, your friendly ghost. It's not some little cartoon or something. But what it is your vital essence, your essential nature, the non-negotiable center of your individual existence. I'm just talking about your spirituality and spirit, not written larger. So, therefore, spirituality is not an option. You got it whether you want it or not. Because the soul, when we talk about it, we've got two things going on simultaneously, which is always kind of fun. One, it's energy. Life is energy. I mean, when we say spirit of life, we're being almost redundant. The frequent male image is this idea of having a fire in the belly that moves you, or women who run with wolves. It's that kind of energy that we get eros and passion, and it drives us like a madness from the gods, as Plato said. And it's also adhesive. It keeps us glued together. It contains both the principle of individuation and integration simultaneously. It is the amniotic fluid of our lives. The soul is both and. It is both a burning fire and a cooling water, which twin are the most common symbols for life. The soul fires us up and holds us together. The soul is life. It is absent at death. I mean, if you think about death, and with death there's no energy, and the body starts to disintegrate. It goes from being a body to being a corpse. A corpse is in the process of disintegration and has no energy. It's the absence of that spirit. It's gone. But soul is balance. Soul is who you are. Or as they once said, what does it profit you if you win the world and lose your soul? It is balance. It's both and. It's sort of like if you watch people doing sword making. You know, they take that piece of iron and they heat it up really, really hot, red hot, and then they beat on it and stick it in water. And repeat, and repeat, and repeat. Both and, not a division. But soul is also greater than human being. It's something beyond that. Because everything is on fire. From restless humans to restless atoms, or even subatomic particles. Yeah, you got that little sodium, that little bit of chloride, and they're both missing an electron. They're gone. And they're solid. Right down to the subatomic particles. We are restless. We are on fire. Everything in the universe yearns for something larger than itself. This is what Emerson was talking about when he talked about the oversoul, that great unifying force, greater than ourselves, that we naturally yearn for. And what makes human beings different is we're conscious of that desire. My kitty cat, I don't think she's conscious of that desire. Us, we are. So, to talk about spirituality today, we need new talk for our modern times. It was easy in pre-modern society, because in pre-modern society, they were all overtly religious. They didn't make these separations. You know, to talk about the spirit and talk about, rock, that was just no big deal. But now we have entered a modern world, or some people would say a postmodern world, and the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times of the modern world, is secular. That's the times we live in. And there's good news and bad news. I mean, the good news is we're not as superstitious as we used to be. That's nice. The bad news is we're alienated from much of our center. And there are blocks to a healthy spirituality. There are a lot of blocks to healthy spirituality. I want to mention just 3 of them. One is this energy stuff. All energy is imperialistic. It wants all of us. It's not friendly. You're playing with fire. When you're dealing with the spirit, you're playing with fire. Now, in the past, this was not such a problem because it was understood against an infinite horizon that it comes from and is directed to God. So you had some way to contain it. It was hedged in with taboos. It was mediated. And it was held in reverence. The arrogance of our times is, oh, I can do this myself. I can handle this all by myself. I don't need any help. I don't need any community. I can take care of this. And you're playing with fire. The handling of fire is best done within a tradition. Secondly, I love this phrase, but I don't love it, but it's so true. We are all pathologically overextended. Every darn one of us. We are too self-preoccupied. We are too focused on work and efficiency. And we have this excessive greed for experience. I want to feel it now. As somebody wrote a few years ago, we are amusing ourselves to death. We don't just stop. We always want to be distracted. We always want to be doing something. And so we never, as Brandon is learning downstairs, learn to be still and pay attention. You know, every choice you make is a renunciation. I'm going to choose to read this book that I've read 3 times already, just because it'll entertain and distract me. I am renouncing practicing my bad shadow. I'm renouncing going for a walk. I am renouncing studying. I am renouncing writing friends. Every choice you make is a renunciation of everything else. So we're always at it, so we need to think about what we're choosing. And third, and this really is one of my pet peeves, we're real bad about embracing false dichotomies. There are things we see out there as dichotomies that are not dichotomies, and when we make them so, we get in trouble. This comes right down to religion and eros again. Everybody likes to talk about eros. Oh gosh, the guy's name just went out. Who's the most famous psychoanalyst ever? Not Freud.
Carl Jung.
Jung. Jung said one time, as I understand it, from somebody who was a Jungian psychologist, that almost everybody who came to him who thought they had a sexual problem actually had a spiritual problem. And almost everybody who came to him who thought they had a spiritual problem had a sexual problem. And the reason is the energies are so similar they couldn't tell them apart. And this gets us in a lot of trouble. Well, we've tried to divide it in two, and what happens is the secular got sex and passion, and the religious got God and chastity. The thing is, we need to put the two back together because they're all of a piece. They're not separate things. They are of one piece. It's a false dichotomy. That's another sermon, too. Here's my least favorite thing, and some of y'all say it or may make you mad right now, but the thing that drives me crazy, I think is one of those foolish things that is part of our culture now is, oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Oh, please. Oh, please. Because what this does, it elevates the individual search, that's nice, and denigrates the communal. Oh, I can do this all by myself. I don't need a community. I don't need a tradition. I don't need any of this stuff. I'm just going to do it all by myself. And I can do it just as well alone. Not answerable to anybody. That's what David Koresh thought. And we saw what happened to him when he played with fire. No, it's good to be in a community, to keep the energy contained and safe. The trick to effective spirituality is there must be simultaneously and balance looking at access and containment. Accessing the spirit, accessing the fire, and containing it at the same time. You have to do them both at once and balance. If you can do that, you can have a really healthy spirituality. If you don't, you're playing with fire. Or you're ignoring the fire, one or the other. A living tradition and a communal religious life helps to contain the fire, the madness of the gods. Should one ever access it? And a lot of us go a long time and never access it. Sometimes because we don't think it's there. Oh, I don't believe that, so I mean, if it comes up and bites me on the butt, I'm not even going to know what it is. Because I deny its reality, I deny its existence. But that lack of access is an absence of delight. The opposite of delight is depression, which is where most of us live most of the time. It's our usual state. You know, delight, and sometimes we're not sure about delight. I rented a little trailer once when I was in school the second time. It was right next to an elementary school. And in the morning, I hated recess. Because when you take a bunch of small children and let them out and they are delighted, what do? They run and shriek.
They're not still.
They're running and shrieking, and that is their delight. And now if you get too much of that, you start getting full of yourself. And uncontained, it can be dangerous, but a lot of us go, oh, I don't know if I'll like that. You know, I mean, I know some people, I have met people in my life who don't even like a small child cooing during church. If you can imagine that. So, I've tried today to define what a healthy spirituality might look like. Maybe another day we could talk about why we need a healthy spirituality. But this is what you need to know. That you all have faith. And you all have spirituality, whether you want it or not. You have a soul that is comprised figuratively of fire and water. It's that which drives you, which fires you up, which makes you restless. That which Plato called a madness from the gods. Also, it's that which keeps you cool, keeps you together, and keeps you from coming unglued. Be aware. Be ever mindful of your spirit. You decide what to do with it, and may your choices be wise.